good to go, my friend.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. So go ahead and talk really quick.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, that works.
Hell
that works.
yeah, brother.
Hey,
Hell yeah, brother.
welcome to the Cine-Scoots podcast. My name is Thano.
My name is Thano.
Oh,
and his name.
His name is Thano.
Is Javier.
There you
Hell yeah,
go.
brother Silva.
Hell yeah, brother. I don't know why. I know it's definitely not the fact that Hulk Hogan was at the RNC.
Did he say that during the RNC?
Probably. I can't remember. Yeah. I associate the hell yeah, brother thing more with like a Macho Man, Randy Savage type of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it just makes me feel so good.
It's pretty great
to just go hell yeah, brother. The way God intended.
Which was that line even in this movie?
Absolutely not.
Excellent. It's the vibe.
It's the vibe. So we're talking about Twisters.
Yes.
The very fresh in our minds movie Twisters from
last week.
Fuck, dude. July 8th.
Yeah.
July 19th.
It came out
the
long
week.
ago. Wow.
It came out the week before Deadpool, which
came out
was
during a very, very busy historical time period.
A historical time period where Thano was out of the country.
Thano was out of the country.
People were getting shot in the face.
People were getting shot in the face. People were quitting their jobs.
People were quitting their job. People did not want to work.
Yeah. Good for the people who did not want to work.
Good for the people.
Not good for the wind that day. Anyway.
So we kind of made like the somewhat last minute decision last week to be like, hey, let's go see Twisters.
Yeah.
Friday night. I had nothing else to do.
Which it was so far after the fact. And I forgot how it even started that we were going to see it, where I was like, wait, was Javi just seeing early screenings and now it's out? Because when I went to go book my ticket, that theater was like...
Pretty bumping.
Pretty bumping. So I was like, are we seeing it now as it's coming out? And Javi had just been seeing it like in early shows. But no, that was not the case.
That was not the case.
Very late. And
so I think the problem... Yeah, so the problem with the movie was they chose to have the movie come out the week before Deadpool and Wolverine. And I don't think they expected their premium screens
to be taken.
Not necessarily to be taken. They knew they were going to be taken. I think that's kind of like obvious when you have a movie as big as Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Yeah. But I just don't think they were expecting people to like this movie in these big formats as much as
they did.
Which, if you think about it, it's kind of a smooth brain move because you should just kind of assume that you want a movie about twisters and explosions to be seen in like a big ass screen.
Yeah,
especially 4DX.
Especially for the X?
4DX.
Oh, 4DX. Yes.
Yeah, like the motion seat theaters,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So this movie was absolutely kneecapped because of that. Like it had just blown past all the projections.
A truck of phosphorus right into it, the eye of its big storm. And
hell yeah,
let that shit blow.
Apparently, I think this movie was supposed to come out way earlier, but then the strike
delayed it.
Which I get, but man, at least put it out a couple weeks before
Deadpool.
At least, because as soon as like Deadpool and Wolverine came out, it really did feel like its ass kind of.
This movie does scream
fell off. Yeah,
May, June.
I think if this movie had come out instead of The Fall Guy, if this movie had replaced The Fall Guy.
On that weekend
in May, this movie would have done gangbusters.
Yeah.
Because I would have seen this movie way more times.
Way more times than you already did.
Yeah.
And isn't May, June also tornado season?
Maybe?
I think so. I mean, it's when the weather is changing.
Yeah, probably.
So, timely.
But anyway, so we couldn't go see this movie together opening weekend because you were off. You were off enjoying a lovely
trip across some water
with your wife.
With my wife.
So we finally got a chance to see it. I really like this movie quite a bit.
I loved it.
I think it's a ton of fun.
I love it the more that I think about it.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies.
Excuse me.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thank you.
This is one of those movies that I'm like, when someone goes, sometimes you want a dumb fun movie,
Yeah.
but I'm also like, no, this is actually a legitimately good movie too.
Sometimes you want a dumb fun movie, and it's much less. It is somewhat dumb.
Oh, for sure.
It is less dumb than you imagined. There are dumb moments which I don't even dislike. I just laugh.
Yeah.
But it is more fun. It is definitely more fun than dumb.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's more fun than dumb. It, like you said, it does make more sense than it is dumb.
Right.
I think the characters are generally very likable.
Yeah.
Like even like, and we'll kind of touch on this because I do want to talk about the original a little bit. I know you haven't seen it.
Do I need to?
No.
So it's like Top Gun.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we'll definitely talk about that for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to see it. I think this movie is. I like this more. It's more fun.
Yeah.
Like the other movie is. It does lean more into like the science aspect of it and like what they want to do with the science.
Pish posh.
Yeah, this movie is more like hell yeah, let's ride this big truck.
Give me my radio hat. My rodeo hat.
Absolutely. But I do think watching this for the 4th time,
Nice.
even though there's lulls in the movie, I don't care. Like it's still a lot of fun.
Even those lulls, I wouldn't say. So you know the big criticism about monster movies, like the people part typically sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the people part sucks here. I feel like the people plot in this movie is better than like most Godzilla adjacent films. Right? Yeah. I didn't get a lot of lulls. I thought it was an efficient time.
Well, by lulls I mean like when the tornadoes aren't happening.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right? So yeah.
But then that to me doesn't feel like I do take lull as usually having a negative connotation of like z.
Sure.
But the contrast between our two main characters and just the character conflict in general is entertaining enough where I never see it as a lull in the film.
So let's get into the movie, mainly because it's been out long enough.
Yeah.
So the movie starts us off with is it really a cold open if the title card happens like immediately?
I don't know what the official rules for cold open are.
But who knows? But we have our inciting incident where we have our girl Kate and her band of homies, Javi, Addy, Praveen, and Jeb.
They're off.
Which, by the way, if your boyfriend's name is Jeb,
I
think she dodged a bullet here.
Asking for some trouble. And they're all relatively young, plucky, likable folk, and you're excited to see how their bonds are going to shape and evolve
throughout the entire movie. Which is so that already is a bit of a contrast from the other movie because in the original, all the people on there are like in their 30s.
Oh wow!
At the very least,
yeah.
I think it's Bill Paxton is the main guy.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is like a friend of his. I think it's Ellen Hunt, maybe. Who's the main lady? I can't remember. But they're all, full on adults, right? Yeah. Whereas in this movie, the cast is definitely skewing way younger.
And I think that helps it because it takes. Not, on the one hand, it is like old dads who will sit outside the porch and watch the storm, right? But like in theory, at least, you would imagine a young whippersnapper being caught up by adventure and wanting to sail into the eye of a tornado.
Yeah, because it's fucking cool.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
It is cool. Long story short, Kate has a dream. And that dream is to destroy tornadoes. She wants to kill all tornadoes.
Which this is where the movie is silly.
It is.
It is.
So it's silly, but it's also silly in the Donald Trump wanting to nuke a tornado type of way.
Yeah.
Or a hurricane, I think it was.
I'll say this now. Even though it happens later. This is the tie thing with the silliest moment where like a tornado will hit a town in this movie. And they'll be like, come, we must go help. And there's one scene where you just see them like just walking around, just walking around town, not doing not doing anything. Helping. They have no resources to help anything. And then when the moments where they do help, you're like, yes, they have like this expertise of tornadoes, but like there's no way that like this group of people would make as much of a difference in this like janky ass town.
Oh, so for sure.
These are the two silliest moments of the movie for me. but they pull on
They
the
do.
beats.
And I also think it's such, I don't know, is it fringe science at this point? What she's trying to do? Because it's technically.
I think it is. I think the film by the end definitely paints it as some sort of fringe science.
Well, because like fringe generally means like kind of out
Generally
there,
means like
right?
tinfoil hat, right? It's not quite that.
Because I think I don't know tornado microphysics, so who the fuck knows, right?
No.
But what they're saying, like, oh, we want to see if like having this weird diaper powder pull the moisture out of it, if it will kill it.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? Why not? What the hell else can we possibly do?
Why not? I think a couple things. By the end, this movie still has to like, despite whatever scientific developments come to be, this movie still has to end in a place where like tornadoes still exist, like in the real world. B, I think another thing is like, yes, tornadoes are dangerous and scary, but when you think of like all the main natural disasters, like they're surprisingly like the least, like if anything, like hurricanes will often like sprout tornadoes, right?
Yeah.
So like earthquake trumps tornado, fire trumps tornado, hurricane trumps tornado. Right?
Probably.
So like they are cool, but then like,
I think it's a concentration issue, right? Because I think if a tornado hits your area, I think your area is pretty fucked.
Well,
whereas a hurricane is very spread out. Same with a fire.
But if a tornado hits your area, the thing, because a tornado is so concentrated, it could destroy that house behind you, and that other house could be like, yes, you are fucked if you get hit.
If you get hit.
But it's not going to wipe out an entire town. It might wipe out blocks.
It depends also on the size of the town and how shitty things are built.
But as the New Orleans Saints can tell us, a hurricane will
absolutely wreck your shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that being said, part of why I think it's like painted as fringe science, or it's sometimes is received to the audience as fringe science, is that like, yes, it'd be cool to live in a world without tornadoes, but the fact of the matter is they're not that big of a threat, where like so much energy would not be put into like, how do we destroy like this type of storm.
Yeah. I do think this movie makes a good point to kind of be like, hey, even though like you said, they are not the biggest threat to
this
the
movie
nation.
makes it seem like it is. To Oklahoma.
To Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Which I guess it is kind of true that a lot of these places in this like southern belt area, this tornado alley section, are getting hit way more and more by tornadoes, right?
Yes.
Which it is based somewhat in truth.
Right.
Like we are seeing a lot of these natural disasters happen a lot more.
It is crazy how ill-equipped they are. And I forgot to, you keep talking, I'm going to Google something, but because I forgot to Google.
Sure.
But keep speaking.
But anyway, I think it does add then to the concept of, well, they want to do something and us as the audience want them to kind of succeed.
Yeah.
And we buy into their bullshit.
Yeah.
So with Kate's plan to try to disrupt this tornado, immediately goes off the rails.
Yeah.
And like in the first 5 minutes, just like her whole team is gone.
Yeah.
Except for her and Javi, which by the way, later on he goes to recruit her. She's working at like this National Weather Service place.
Yeah. The National Weather Service. Like
I guess it is supposed to be like a real place.
Yeah.
The NOAA.
Yeah.
Which might be defunded.
Right.
Depending on
who wins certain races.
So Kate might lose her job.
Poor Kate.
But fucking Javi is like, oh, do you ever think about why you and I were the only ones to make it out? And I'm like, motherfucker, you were 3 miles away in a van.
This is the other really funny thing. The way they die. And I'm not saying that they didn't have, I think the movie still made a logical choice why they would do what they did, but it is funny how the dialogue paints it out. Where they're on a highway, the tornado's coming, they see the underpass, and like, let's go take shelter. And then I think the boyfriend or someone who dies ends up saying, and I quote, like, the underpass is the literal worst place to be under a tornado. but they go anyway. And I get it because there was nowhere else. Like there was nowhere else to go. But it was funny to hear this is the worst place to go.
Yeah,
and that's where they all take cover.
I mean,
nature be scary.
I don't know what the right answer for that is. Is that what you were Googling?
No, I was Googling actually because I couldn't remember if Oklahoma really didn't have many basements, and it does not because of like the type of soil that's there. But I was going back to say like these towns in Oklahoma in this movie absolutely get wrecked. And as I was watching, I was like, haven't these like fucking cowboys figured out something to do by now? I was like, I couldn't remember if they had basements or not, but like, why are all these homes so shitty?
Yeah.
Anyway, aside. Everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
He goes to recruit Kate because he wants her expertise.
Yep.
My first couple times watching this, I was like, why does he need her for this? But then I guess it does make sense because he wants her ability to know where the tornado is going.
She's got the magic touch.
Yeah. So they do need to put a sensor, right? His whole plan is he has these like radars.
Yeah.
The radars are going to triangulate around the tornado, and you're going to get a 3D scan.
You're gonna get data.
Data, right?
Yes.
Which, in theory, I think is good.
But as we know, working in the U.S. education system, all sorts of administrators love to collect data. And then what do we do with it?
Absolutely nothing.
But
absolutely nothing. Or the worst things.
Yes.
Which this movie does kind of touch on a little bit. But I kind of just start to think about it, like, okay, so why does he want her specifically? It does check out. But then when they first do their initial like chase, she very, very understandably basically has like a PTSD episode of this tornado's coming for me and my friend.
And he's like, why are you
He's like, Kate, why the fuck are you doing this? And I'm like, dude, did you not remember what happened 5 years ago?
Yeah.
I was like, come on, man.
Yeah.
It was like the one part that I was like, this dude, for someone who clearly is painted as he fucking loves her, at least like at the initial, it always does seem like he's like, it does make it seem like he's in love with her, right?
You let me know. I don't see it on our agenda, but you let me know when's an appropriate time to talk about the racial component of this movie, because I have bullet points that I'd like to share. But yes, he definitely is. He definitely is in love with her.
He loves her, and you would think he'd be like, yeah, dude, she almost fucking died. Yeah. We should probably ease in on this, right?
She was literally under the underpass while I was in my car.
She saw three friends, one of them away. Being her lover, go flying away.
Yeah.
So come on, dude, chill. So that was like the one thing that I was like, okay, they are not doing a great job handling this one character. Mm-hmm. Because you probably should like him a bit more.
Yeah.
I get that you probably want to push Glenn Powell as like...
And boy, do they.
Let's talk about...
Effectively.
Let's talk about Mr. Owen.
Yeah.
So, Donald, who is Mr. Tyler Owen?
So he's like a YouTube storm chaser, and he's got the moxie. He's got the cowboy hat. He's got the persona of... He would kind of fit into like the Joe Rogan community, where he sort of takes like science, and learning into his own hands, and he bucks the system, and he plays by his own rules, and he shoots fireworks into tornadoes because it's fucking cool, right? But man, is he an attractive fellow, and he's our initial foil.
He is. Movie. Question for you: What the fuck does he do the remainder of the seasons when there's really not that many tornadoes? Could your channel survive?
This is a fine question.
Because they're like, we have about 1 million subscribers, and I'm like, cool. What do they do the other 8 months of the year?
Maybe he does educational videos. I remember, like, it's revealed that he went to college.
Yeah, he was a meteorologist or whatever.
And then Kate is very surprised that he went to college. I'm like, I'm not that surprised.
I mean, he doesn't look like he's missing teeth.
Exactly.
So like
there are people in his group I was like, you definitely did not go to college.
there are some people in his group that I'm like, I could smell you through the screen.
Yeah, but I'm like, you went to college, right? It's not that impressive anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was very interesting that, yes, I get it. People will watch whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a whole group of people who are risen with autism who will probably love a tornado-only channel.
Yeah.
But if there's no tornadoes to chase,
right, what do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do?
Do you take a tornado video and split it into 5 sections and spread it out over the course of a month?
I have no clue. Because also your subscribers are only going to be into it for like that long.
Sure.
Like, is Binging with Babish, is everybody still tuning into like I tried every peanut butter video? You know what I'm saying?
Binging with Babish. I haven't seen the Binging with Babish video in years.
You're right. My point exactly.
You're right, I guess.
One can only sell so much merch. And he's got to like repair his windshield frequently.
That cannot be cheap.
Exactly. Need that reinforced glass.
Gotta reinforce that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like you said, he is our main foil, right?
Yeah.
He's competing against Kate and her group, which is Stormpar.
To get the storm.
Yeah. Calling that a competition, I think, feels a little weird too. Because they are not competing for the same thing.
I chose to read it as Kate's group, and I don't know if this holds. Kate's group needed to get there first so they could scan the storm without intruding in on it. And then Glenn Powell's character just obviously...
What are you trying to imply that fireworks don't naturally go off in tornadoes? I don't know.
I am not implying
how could you?
Because that's the America I want to live
in. Yeah. But I do think like it does add a nice layer to like not just be following Kate and her group, just doing nerd ass shit.
Yeah.
Which I do feel like was a bit of the problem in the original, where these people are trying to get stuff into the tornado to collect data, and you really just follow them the entire time.
Yeah.
Like that is their goal. Their goal is to get, at the beginning of the movie, Javi has the big barrel with the flying spinny thingies.
Right.
So that's really what the entire purpose of that first movie is. Trying to get these things up into the thing and seeing what the data is inside the tornado.
Data.
And they take the entire movie to do what this movie does in the first 2 minutes.
Nice.
So bing bang boom.
Bing bang boom.
Yeah. So I think having this escalation of, well, now we want to see with this other new technology that we have, how we can possibly
how can we shoot the tornado?
How can we take the tornado out back?
Yeah. An old Yeller, the tornado.
I do think it's interesting though that in this movie we get our data very early on. Like the movie's really not about
collecting the data. It's about human interaction, character versus character, character versus nature, character versus character versus self. That's what it is. It really is. It's a very there's very good, clear, and simple depictions of the basic conflicts that are in
and
this movie.
I think that's why this movie's appealing. Yeah. It's simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't try to convolute itself as much as a lot of other disasters movies.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I love me a good disaster movie, but I cannot tell you what the fuck happened in Geostorm.
Right.
So yeah, they get their data on the second chase. Mm-hmm. She has a freak out on the first one. Second chase, they get the data, the thing goes flying.
You have to go. Yeah.
And that's when they're like, we gotta go get the data because there's a battery in it.
Yeah.
And she's like, bro, the tornado's going right into town. Let's go help. Which again, this is where your point out.
This is where it's funny.
Yeah, where they just all right, this tornado just broke all these houses. Let's go lift a couple pieces of plywood, I guess. This is where we get more development for Tyler.
Because this is where it's in this town where we learn. I mean, if you have a brain and you see the real estate developer that what's his name is working with,
Javi's
working with. Thank you. you realize like, this is a bad man. He's wearing his Doug Dimmadome ascot. Isn't this town after they get the data where like,
yeah, it's the one immediately
where Tyler's like,
he's like, you have no idea who you've been working for.
Exactly.
And she's like, you're over here selling shit to people who lost everything.
Yeah.
And all right, so hear me out. I know we never want to side with a capitalist. We never want to side with a real estate investor.
Right.
But who the fuck is going to buy your land after your house just got demolished? So, like, in a way, I kind of get.
Maybe he's just building apartments.
Maybe. But, it is kind of true, though. Like, if you lost everything, you're not going to get anything for that house. Because they do say a lot of these houses are uninsured.
Yeah.
So at this point, you just own a whole bunch of land and you don't have the money to build anything on there. If this dude is here to give you some money, sure, he's absolutely 100,000% ripping you off.
Yeah.
But it's something.
Yeah, I don't know to what extent this movie clearly communicates the actual like economic, the actual economic dangers that plague these communities. Also, like, I don't know to what, like, it does mention that tornadoes are happening more frequently, but it's not as explicitly pointing the finger at like climate change as other movies are. Mm-hmm. So yeah, case in point, like, I know it tries to touch on like some societal issues, and I think it touches on them, but I think it never like fully.
It never dives deep into there. Yeah. I do think
we
should have.
We should have, but then we also did credit it for keeping it.
No, not even that. I think they should have gone more in detail to how Riggs, the real estate developer guy,
fucks people over.
How he is not really helping, because it really does make it seem like, well, your house is fucked. Yeah. Here's a couple $1,000 to go find a house somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like, from a standpoint of like, we don't really see this happen a lot. It just seems like, well, these people really have nothing. Take some money at least.
Yeah.
Right. If it does make it seem like, oh, your property was valued at this much, but now that it's ruined, I can only give you $5,000. Then you kind of see him as more of a scummy person.
Yes.
I think that would have gone a little bit more to make that point more poignant.
Exactly.
Right?
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
But anyway, I love the scene after this where they get into this argument, and she's at her hotel room. Mm-hmm. He knocks on the door. He gives her a pizza. He's like, oh, your friends told me you were staying here. She's like, all right, cool, thanks. Fucking slams the door on him. Which leads us to her opening the door, and he's still standing there with his goofy ass smile.
Dude, his glorious ass smile. They made this man
this
absolutely beautiful in this movie.
This role is perfect for his type of
acting, his
look. I think his look
body
alone.
Structure. Yeah, like there were numerous scenes where he was just like standing.
There were many times in this movie where Thano turned to me and goes, woof, woof, fanning himself.
It was.
He needed a fainting couch.
I did.
Thano needed new undies.
He's a beautiful man.
He is a very beautiful man.
I hope Glenn Powell actually has an even more illustrious career than he already has.
Is it fair to call it a Glenn Powell-sans if he's just basically kind of starting?
No, we would just say this is his breakout.
Breakout? Yeah. I don't want him to break out, go away, and have a renaissance. I just want him to kind of be around.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, right now we've had, at least 3 movies with him in it. They have been, at the very least, with the Hitman.
Yeah.
Like, good, right? I wouldn't say that the Hitman was great.
No, it was good.
But it was good.
Yeah.
He was good in it.
Yep.
But like Top Gun. I think he could have had a more prominent role in it, but he was good as like the heel in it.
He's that's why he's the heel, because he's the up and coming and better Tom Cruise. But point aside, Top Gun, Anyone But You, like this movie.
Ooh, Anyone But You is so good too.
Hitman, those are all like, it's a wide-ish array of films that he's doing, which still kind of seem to fit within his toolbox.
I would like to see him do a straight up action movie.
Well, without getting too derailed,
Yeah.
there was like some rumors that he's being considered for DCU's Batman,
I heard.
which I would actually very much. I think he'd do a fantastic Bruce Wayne.
He would.
Yeah.
But I do think his smile is, like, I think I mentioned that to you that night. His smile is too Glenn Powell.
Smile, that damn smile.
To be like, I wonder why Batman has this mouth and Bruce Wayne also has the exact same mouth. It's such a distinguished smile.
So does Michael Keaton. Not his smile, but like his bottom, his bottom of his head is pretty distinct.
Maybe.
Yeah.
They go to this rodeo, which is it's another parallel to the original movie where they are. There's a scene where I can't remember the main characters are actually at this drive-in or they are near this drive-in. And a big ass tornado just happens to sneak up on them.
Oh wait, this was another funny part where like she's like early on they're like, what the fuck does he even mean? He's a tornado wrangler. And I was like, I mean, I get it, cowboy hat, like he was chasing it. I think it fits. And then they get to the rodeo, and then he mentions this wasn't my first rodeo. She's like, oh, so that's why you're a tornado wrangler. And I was like, didn't need that much explaining to me. But anyway, yes.
Yeah. I always find it amazing in these movies how the tornadoes can sneak up on people.
I find that amazing. I find it amazing that, incorrect, that if I am at a middle school track meet and there is lightning, we will cancel that shit.
Cancel that shit immediately.
And then these people in the middle of Tornado Alley, there's lightning happening all around, and they're like, let's watch these horses chase these cows.
I think this is a pretty good scene, even though it's not... I don't know. Again, this is kind of like where the science kind of just feels like it really does go out the window 1,000%.
Yeah.
When they're like, well, let's go hide inside of this empty pool. And magically, the pool has a big hole in the side where people can hang on to the pipes.
Yeah.
But I love the one guy who gets in the pool and Tyler's like, hey, you need to stay low. And he's like, I got you, fam. And he gets up and immediately just gets swept away.
There's the other guy in the motel.
The one who's like, this fucking room is hot as fuck.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, dude.
There's a tornado coming. Like, they're all false alarms anyway. I'm like, where have you been throughout the entire movie? We've already seen 3 of these. Like,
which is kind of funny, too. This movie really does make it seem like Oklahoma is just riddled with tornadoes.
Yeah.
Because in the span of a week,
there's a whole bunch of them.
There's like 8 or 9 tornadoes that they talk about.
Yep.
Holy shit. Could you imagine?
Yeah, that sounds awful.
That sounds terrible.
And that is my other question. Like, I do get why there are no basements, but then I'm like, okay, why are all these buildings
built so shitty?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to assume, but I'm pretty sure if I Google the economic status of Oklahoma...
It's not great.
It's
not great.
It's not great.
But there do be oil.
There do be oil, but...
So much that the U.S. could invade it to give it some freedom.
But, I mean, I think that's kind of the point. I don't know how much benefit there is to building a really, really nice house if there is always a chance that a tornado will
I don't mean nice, I mean sturdy. Like, put some bricks.
Put some pipes down into them dirt.
Some concrete.
Some concrete. I don't know. I really don't know. This is the whole, like, 3 Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf situation. Where I guess you're kind of right. Like, hey, if the Big Bad Wolf is going to come in with his huffing and puffing, maybe don't build your house out of wood.
Yeah.
Maybe use some brick.
Maybe some bricks.
It's a good point, I guess.
The amount of architectural knowledge that story taught people. Does that story have any other moral other than, like...
just be prepared.
Use quality materials, bitches.
I think it's that a lot of the other pigs do it because they're lazy, and it's like the
third pig,
the big piggy used.
Yeah, he used
hard work.
Industry.
This is a crazy scene for me. Immediately after fucking this tornado hits, and Javi comes in. Talks to Kate.
Yeah.
They get into like a small argument about who he's working for, and he's like, "Yeah, well, your fucking science project cost us their 3 friends."
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Whoa, buddy.
Yeah.
You were trying to get into this girl's pants."
It was your science project too.
It was not.
It was her science.
It was her science. His science project was getting the little beads in the tornado.
Fair enough.
Which didn't require, I feel,
going into
the tornado.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was like, man, if you're trying to get with someone,
yeah,
you should always be at your A game.
That's not the way.
That's not the way.
That's not the way.
This is where I thought this movie showed a lot of reserve into not bringing in a cameo. Because the movie, the way it's framed, she goes home, she's drinking her juice or whatever, water out of the fridge. You hear a door open, and she goes, "Oh, Mom, it's me."
Yeah.
And you see a lady walking in, and it's silhouetted. She's like all, just blacked out. And then she comes in superhero style, where it reveals who it is. And boy, oh boy, do I have no fucking idea who Maura Tierney is.
Me neither. Good job with this cast, actually, keeping it to the unknowns.
Keeping it to the unknowns for the most part.
Yeah.
I think there's some people who are kind of up and coming, like we said. Anthony Ramos, I think he's gotten some popularity. Daisy Edgar Jones has been kind of coming up quite a bit. Brandon Perea, he was in Get Out. Kiernan Shipka, who's only in it for a little bit. She's in a couple of horror things. She was in, what's that show called? Mad Men?
Oh, really?
Yeah, she plays like one of the kids in there. She plays Sabrina in Sabrina the Teenage Witch in the new one for Netflix.
Oh.
David Cornsweet, he's the douchebag. He's the new Superman.
Oh, wow.
Which I think, to your point,
yeah,
would be kind of amazing if this movie already gives us Superman and Batman.
Wow. I'm cheering for it.
I'm hoping. Yeah. Katie O'Brien is in this movie.
Yeah.
She's the buff lesbian in pretty much everything she's in.
Good for her.
Good for her. I still have not seen her movie with Kristen Stewart, where they play bodybuilding lesbians.
I didn't see that either.
But anyway, I really thought they were going to bring in
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Oh wait.
Well, yes. Fuck. I really thought they were going to bring in Helen Hunt as the mom here, because like she uses the same dandelion trick at the beginning of the movie that Bill Paxton uses in the first movie. So when they're talking about doing all this, I'm like, so is she supposed to be related to them? The name of the little flying spinny thingies was like the Dorothy 5. In Twisters, it was called Dorothy 4. So like, it's a tie. So I was like, is this supposed to be a continuation?
Yeah.
So I don't know what necessarily they were going for, but you know what? I don't think it matters.
I'm fine with there not being cameos.
No, for sure. Even if there were, I don't think it really would have made much of a difference. Because I think this movie does a good enough job kind of doing its own thing that even if they did include someone, it wouldn't have really made... It wouldn't have taken anything away or added anything extra, I think.
And I'm kind of glad this movie stands on its own, because I don't think the concept of tornado chasing does not, to me, need a traditional sequel. Like, you can keep the IP going, but like, I don't need to see plot developments.
No.
Because especially with a movie like this, where like the science is such a big part of it, like part of that plot development would then eventually be like, we have found a way to kill the tornado.
So I do have questions about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is where we start to have even more bonding between Kate and Tyler, where they start to try to make her model work. They go through some pretty cool like tornado chase sequences, just the two of them, which I really liked. She switches sides. She goes from like the science nerd side to the cool people side.
Yeah, the cool people.
The cool people side. The cool, smelly hippie side.
After he stayed in her house.
After he stayed.
His
dude,
mom
her mom.
approved. I like her.
Her mom is like, girl, you need to get some.
Exactly. It's time.
I guess.
Time. Yeah.
It is. Hey, Chad, is it cool for your mom to try to get you laid?
Dude, I think it is.
I think
In this case, I do think it is.
Kathy's a cool mom.
I mean, you asked that story, but growing up in an immigrant community, well, I don't know to what extent you've seen this as much, but like I've definitely seen like mom trying to get you hitched, which then, brings the laid, but like.
I guess. Yeah. Now, I mean, maybe get you hitched, sure, but no, this mom is like, you're fucking my daughter, basically.
Yep. And then staying.
And
staying. Yeah.
I love the scene though where they're heading off, and Tyler gives her the shirt, and she just looks at the shirt like, "What the fuck?" It's such a goofy shirt. I kind of want one.
I also thought that immediately once I saw it.
I kind of want one.
I thought that immediately once I saw it.
We get our big final tornado, which is where they're going to try to shoot this new and improved scientific method.
Yes.
Where they're going to make it rain in the tornado.
Yeah.
And then they're going to use the diaper fluid
to kill the tornado.
To
murder the tornado.
The tornado ends up being a lot bigger than they had thought again.
Big
Seems
tornado.
to be.
Yeah.
Seems to be the running,
that
theme of this movie.
That tracks.
It tracks.
I would actually really find it funny if one of these movies like did close with like a little F1 tornado.
Like, oh, we thought it was going to be bigger. Yeah, me too. All right, see you next week, guys.
Nature's crazy sometimes.
Nature do be crazy.
Am I
right? I think this whole final act is very, very fun.
Yes.
I think what makes it more fun too is that like it's not Tyler taking her into the tornado. It really is her doing this on her own.
She is. She's
willing to sacrifice herself for her own science, right? It's not just, here's my science, you do it. It's, I'm going to do it, whether it kills me or not.
Yeah.
Right? The town destruction, I think, is really cool. Mm-hmm. I love the
massive.
fact. It's massive.
Yeah, that town gets wrecked.
It gets fucked. One thing that I loved was seeing a lot of the behind the scenes and like how so much of this was really done practically. Like there's a video clip where they have this giant silo.
Yeah.
And then just the actor is standing there and just the water just fucking knocks him back.
That's awesome.
It's really, really cool. It adds to making the disaster scene feel tangential. Mm-hmm. Like, you know how sometimes you watch a movie? Tangible.
Yes.
Not tangential.
Yes.
Tangible. Right. You watch a movie and you're like, that is not, you are just swatting the air.
Yeah.
And it makes everything feel floaty. I think this movie
makes it feel weighty.
Gives things the appropriate heft.
Yeah.
The trucks feel heavy. When something gets lifted.
When they're like holding on to movie theater seats. And like they have to like slowly crawl back and back and back to the theater. Mm-hmm. As it like slowly gets nibbled and nommed by the tornado.
Yeah, right? That's a cool thing. I think the end of the movie really does kind of leave you with that idea of, was she successful or was she not?
Because at the end they're like, like you did it, but I'm sure like
they're going to
no
give
one's
you
gonna say like there wasn't enough data or whatever. I forget what the
yeah. So Javi says like they're gonna say it could have been anything that disrupted it. It could have been the fire from the refinery,
which we didn't even talk about the fact that the fire tornado. Yeah,
I think because even though we do kind of get a fire tornado, it really is like kind of blink and you miss it.
Yeah,
it's very fast. It doesn't really stick around. They leave the area. I mean, rightfully so.
Right.
I would not fucking stick around.
Yeah.
But I think it's, in the grand scheme of that entire third act, it is a very, very small, like 10-second section.
Yes. They don't overdo it with the fire tornado.
No, which I was kind of hoping they would, because it was heavily advertised, like in the poster. In the main poster for the movie, it's a fucking fire tornado.
Do you remember when you learned what a fire tornado is?
A fire tornado?
That they call it that. and I'm citing Tom Skilling here.
Ooh.
And in fact, there's an actual B movie called Firenado, as I'm Googling images of,
Amazing.
of Firenados. But I was
Amazing.
sitting at home watching the news in like elementary and middle school. I was like, did you know there's things called Firenados? And I was
Yeah.
like, excuse me. And the world became much more terrifying immediately. But like, look, you can't see this at home, millions of viewers, but like,
It's fucking cool, and I kind of
That's
wish we would have
amazing.
seen more of it.
yeah.
Because it was very obscured, which I guess does kind of make sense. Like there's a lot of smoke
Right.
happening, and this is a big tornado. A lot of those, like even in the picture that Thano just showed, are millions and millions of fans. Like it's a very isolated thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a small one, but it looks imposing because
This one looks chunky. It's a chub.
yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wish there would have been more of a scene with the fire tornado being more of a threat.
Yeah. But then I mean,
But then we have sequel stuff.
sequel stuff, and then her magic science can do nothing against a Firenado.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm assuming you could then say like, oh, it moved and now it doesn't have the fuel.
Yeah.
So then we go back into the town and it's just a regular tornado.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. But anyway, I think this, and then the end of the movie kind of leaves us, like we said, up in the air as to what they could do if they do decide to do a sequel. I think this movie, if we were in a purely DVD Blu-ray economy,
It's going straight to.
no. I think this movie would be a lot better off because people would buy this. The problem is right now, a lot of studios are not getting a lot of DVD sales
Yeah.
because
I wonder why.
it's all fucking streaming, right? And then figuring out how much your movie does as far as moving subscriber numbers and how much they would then allocate to your movie. I don't know. I mean, this movie made on a $155 million budget and made 367 total.
Yeah. Which is
Right? It's not bad.
Not bad, but not
it's
great.
Double your budget.
Yeah.
But I think where a lot of people are kind of discounting, and I think Dan does an okay job at balancing this. I don't know if you've been keeping up with his charts.
No, I haven't.
But he does say that this movie in general, like as a whole, can be a bit disappointing if you think of it from a whole overview thing. But the fact that domestically it's doing so well, that does help, because even if you have a really high international box office, the amount that you're getting back from international is a lot lower than what you get from domestic.
Well, so I don't know how much this is a factor. If I'm correct, and I'm going to look this up right now just to confirm, I think tornadoes are kind of an American thing. Not that they don't
are
totally
very
exist.
much an American thing.
Yeah.
I've never seen a movie with a tornado in
Europe.
or
Right.
Asia or Africa.
So I think that might be a factor. Factor two, I don't know how many people are in my boat, but because of how like prominent the whole like Sharknado craze was, like heard about this and we're like, oh, this is just another like, and weren't aware of the first one. We're like, this is just another
Maybe
stupid movie.
That could be it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So those are two factors that I don't think are the main factor, but I think.
I think it is. It is very interesting too that, like, kind of like you said, this is a very American thing, and I think storm chasing is a very American thing.
Yes.
That is even kind of addressed in the movie with, is his name Ben?
So wait, some stats.
Ooh, stats.
Average tornadoes per year in the U.S. is over 1150. Average tornadoes per year in Europe is over 250. So significant difference in the amount of tornadoes.
So wait, how many in Europe?
250.
250 in Europe.
And in the U.S., 1,150.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So big difference.
That is a huge difference. Yeah. The character of Ben in this movie, he's a reporter from England, which there's a really funny joke that I wish I knew by memory, but fucking he just starts explaining where he's from.
Yeah.
And Tyler and Boone, being the ignorant ass Americans they are, they're like, okay, whatever.
mean, yeah.
It's really funny.
Look, I this is ignorant what I'm about to say. It's all of the UK is just the same.
It is.
It's
It really is.
It's
a
all
lot
the
of
same. I know there's different accents and blah blah blah, but like, it's the same. And I know a lot of people think that all of America
It's all
is Texas,
bland ass food.
but like, you all at least know about California, so you can't all say that it's all
Texas. You know California,
in Texas,
yeah, New York,
right,
maybe Florida, maybe Chicago.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's more than I know of all of Europe. Yeah, it's all messy.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, Mike. But anyway. But he does say that he's in America studying American storm chasing.
Yeah.
Because anytime I see anybody being a storm chaser, it is always in the Americas.
Well, but think about it. You need a truck, right?
Yeah.
If you have a truck, you're more likely than not American, right?
Probably.
You need a lot of storms. American. Yeah. You need tornadoes, like specifically. Like to chase a storm, like the only one you can properly really chase is a tornado. So
yeah, probably
tracks.
Yeah, it makes sense. And also I think because the U.S. is so big, you can kind of just come and go.
Yeah,
very easily as far as like no crossing state lines.
No other passports or anything like that.
Yeah. So I know that's probably it. The movie ends with our two characters kind of, or actually our three characters being in a bit of a throuple.
Okay.
I think Javi is definitely...
You think Javi's still got a chance?
Maybe.
I think he's out.
I think he kind of accepts that he's... As much as I hate for someone named Javi...
No, right. We're going to talk about...
To not get the girl.
We're going to talk about the racial components of this movie.
Let's talk about it.
As much as I do love the Glenn Powell character, I do think that this movie does our boy Javi a little dirty.
Oh, does this movie a lot of dirty?
Yeah. So
he's the best friend.
He's the best friend.
He
not that he should
loves
be entitled
her.
To her. Yes.
I think this movie also does not go deep into what Javi would like from that relationship.
That, and also, so back to the economics of this movie I think does make it clear that like, hey, like I grew up like not with a lot of money. Like this job is my chance to like, this job is my chance to, to make a name for myself, right? To have, to have, I made it in the world, like financially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting that like you have this character of color who gets the legitimate job and you find out that like he's the unethical one. Whereas you've got like sexy cowboy influencer,
mm-hmm.
I will say. And then he comes out as being, the man on top, so to speak. I mean, he literally like when asked to move by the TSA guy in the airport, he literally like breaks federal property and like drills his car into the street. So I think this very much is having just come off listening to the Midnight Boys white movie draft. I do think this is a white movie.
It's a very white movie.
Yeah. And that white movie does not mean bad movie. They even say they're like, we love most of these movies. But like I do think there is an inherent whiteness to this movie.
Yeah. For sure.
The needle drops by themselves.
The needle drops so much country.
Which are fantastically used. Right?
Yeah, I think I told you walking out, this is the most country I've heard and the less amount of country that I've hated.
Yeah, I've never felt like more of a country fan.
I mean, Donna, we walked out of this movie like, yee-haw!
Yeah,
brother.
We literally did. Hell yeah, brother.
Hell yeah. Somebody replied back. I don't know if you heard.
Oh, did they really?
No, we were walking out and you were walking away and I go, hell yeah, brother. And then someone from the opposite side goes, yeah. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. This movie is bringing people together.
It is.
I would not mind a direct sequel to this, mainly because I like seeing disaster movies. Mm-hmm. B, I think the characters are likable.
Yeah.
I think C, you could make a story where, like you said, it doesn't actually fully resolve this problem.
Mm.
But
of the throuple?
Not the
tornadoes.
Of like suddenly we have no more tornadoes and America is healed.
Yeah.
Right? you can still kind of figure out a way to make this movie be like, now that we know this shit works, let's get data on that.
Yeah.
And then you can escalate like the set pieces
Yes.
to that. Or you could even be like, oh, tornadoes are moving into areas where tornadoes were usually not before. And now we can get some like city shit.
The tornado revenge.
I would love me. There's a scene in The Day After Tomorrow that I really wish. Huh?
With a city tornado?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Where tornadoes hit, I want to say it's somewhere, I think it might be Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But you never really see it happen. You're in a building with a janitor, the tornado hits, he's like, oh no! And then he opens a door to like an office and like half of the building is gone. And you see tornadoes in the distance.
So you see the aftermath.
And I'm like, I would have loved to see a scene of the tornadoes in the city.
It's a higher budget.
Absolutely.
It's a higher budget.
It's a higher budget.
Yeah.
But back then, in those days,
Right.
they fucking flooded the shit out of New York City with a giant tidal wave. You're not telling me you can't show me a couple of at least 30 seconds of a tornado in LA?
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah. I just think this movie, a sequel to this would benefit from having a more densely populated area.
For sure.
Because this movie is a lot of grass fields and wheat fields.
I think that's where we talked about at the beginning how like this movie is dumb fun, but like the fun exceeds the dumb. And I think this movie being grounded enough in reality is what makes it work, where I'm cautious about moving the tornado into a more densely packed area. Because then you really got to play with like the science of it all.
Got to take a left turn here so that it can go right over here.
Exactly.
Maybe. I don't know. But I mean, the problem is with sequels, you do kind of need a bit of an escalation.
You need to expand the world.
And that's why I'm not getting paid to write movies, because
right.
What I think would be kind of fun does not always necessarily mean it's logical.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't know. I just kind of want more of this. I think it's just my way of saying I want more disaster movies.
Disaster movies?
But like good disaster movies.
Yes.
We haven't had a good disaster movie. And I'm not counting Godzilla x Kong.
And you're not counting Moonfall.
Listen.
Episode 1, baby.
I love Moonfall.
Episode 1, baby.
I love Moonfall, but it ain't a good movie. It's a fun ass movie.
It's a fun ass movie.
But it's not a good movie.
Yes, I would like to see them push. I mean, now that we've kind of come off of Prey and Alien Romulus, where we've had a good Predator movie and we've had a good Alien movie, I think there's hope that like creatives can reinvigorate genres that we thought were like sort of wrung dry. But maybe those genres also just have like an expiration date where eventually you can only take the idea so far and then audiences get tired of it and then you just have to revisit it later. I don't know.
I'm really hoping that we get I really hope that this kind of gives people that itch and that people kind of ask for this a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate to be doom and gloom, and now let's talk about cinema in general. But like, every time I talk to my coworkers and people generally their age about movies, so many of them say like, I haven't been to a movie theater in God knows how long, right? Or like the only time I go is when I like take my kids. And that's fair. I just think it's hard to know what audiences are asking for when I think there's still a question mark as to like what percentage of the movie audience still exists.
I suppose
it's a hard business.
For sure.
And I don't want to end this episode on like such that somber note.
Go see this movie if you haven't seen it. I'm sorry, like just go see it.
Go see it, because even if this is the end of like this type of movie for a while, right? It's cool to appreciate it as a gem that hits way above its weight class.
Yeah. We used to get so many disaster movies.
Yeah.
Like if I remember back, like there's a lot of movies from the 70s that were disaster movies. There's the movies about floods, movies about earthquakes, movies about volcanoes.
Then there's the whole reacting to 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm hopeful. I hope that they take the positives from this, and even if it's not another Twisters movie, give us a fucking Mount St. Helen Part 2. Give us a Yellowstone.
A volcano movie would be fun.
A volcano movie would be fun. Because 2012 deals with the explosion of Yellowstone, but it's not the entire thing. It's a little bit.
A Pompeii movie could be cool.
No, it's not.
You would not think a Pompeii movie would
Motherfucker,
be cool?
they made a Pompeii movie and ain't nobody fucking watched it.
They can make.
You know who was in it?
Who?
Fucking Kit Harington.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't think Thano has got his finger on the pulse for a Pompeii movie.
I don't, but I'll also say that, like, look, I love me some Kit Harington, but I feel like a rule of thumb is that if he's going to be in it, then you know it's not going to be not his fault. But
not his fault.
It's a project he's going to be in. It's not going to do gangbusters.
Thano, this movie came out in 2014. It had Kit Harington, Carrie Ann Moss, Emily Browning, who I haven't heard of in a fat minute.
We're overdue. That was 10 years ago. We're overdue.
Maybe.
We're overdue for a Pompeii movie. You could get a good Pompeii movie.
I guess you're right. We got 10... Sorry, in 10 years, we got 3 Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
I guess we can do a Pompeii. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Share with your friends. Give us some love. Leave us a review on the Spotify.
Give us some love.
Give us some loving. Until next time, he has been Thano.
He has been Javier.
This has been the Cine-Scoots podcast. Bye.
Bye.